do that, but then I'd probably grab an air horn instead.
Blast it in.
Also funny though.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of SEO Fight Club. For some reason, Zoom is streaming to YouTube today. Go figure. That's like crazy town. How the heck does that just work without any changes from me? I changed nothing, and it just works now. Go figure. Who knows? So with that, let me check YouTube. Looks like it's working over there. So if you have questions in YouTube land, feel free to ask. I'll be watching, or Clint will be watching, or maybe Kyle will.
Kyle never watches.
Let's see. So that looks good. So today we're going to be talking about tricking Google into giving you answers. You know, the one thing Google never wants to do is give you a straight answer. And are there techniques and methods into doing that? I don't have slides today, so it's more of a conversation style episode. But before we jump into that, I know that Clint did a really cool episode on SEO this week. So perhaps you could tell us what you talked about.
I don't even remember. What did I talk about? Oh, keyword clusters and topic clusters. I was comparing the two and kind of clearing up the definitions of them, because a lot of us, including me, we overlap them, and they're really different things, right? So we went over that pretty good and talked about the different tools and how to, create keyword clusters specifically. And I think it was pretty good. Got some good feedback off of it.
And Lee, you've been looking into keyword clustering. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been researching?
Well, a little bit on that stuff. I think Leo's come out with a new tool. I've been playing with that a little bit, and looking at sort of different methods that are used for clustering, keywords or core factors, or how do you determine degree of similarity. And it's challenging to do it mathematically. You can do it better, with the human brain and, the eyeballs, but the math behind it can get tricky in a hurry. So
now, if you had to bring it down to earth and just like a couple sentences, what should clustering mean to the average SEO?
I think that clustering, whether you're talking about keywords or entities or whatever else, looks at degree of similarity, with Google being the arbiter of similarity. I mean, what I think might be similar, Google might disagree with. So, if you're looking at keyword clustering, those are keywords that, one page might rank for because they are nearest neighbors and things like that. So that would be sort of the layman's view.
So that was the worst one or two sentence answer I've ever heard.
I appreciate that. Love you, Clint.
So if you were an SEO, or let's say if you were a plumber, if you were to have your website be called, Joe's Plumbing and Electrical, have you done a good job with your clustering on that page, or have you done a bad job with your clustering on that page?
Well, I've done some analysis in that arena, and that's one we talked a little bit about the other day. And I think sometimes that websites that do that can confuse Google, because they are not, like, the plumber side of the site is not as plumber optimized, because you're also getting links from the electrical side, which, has nothing to do with the plumbing side. So oftentimes I find that it is easier to rank if you are one or the other. So, where it sits right now, I would think that it'd probably be easier for a business like that to have two businesses rather than one combined one, because they don't really, they're not near neighbors in terms of clustering. You don't see, when you're looking for plumbing keywords, you don't see electrical contractor come up anywhere.
So there you have it. If you need a direct answer out of Lee, you got to get down into the examples. Check out Clint's show. It's really cool. It's really cutting edge SEO. Be sure to check it out. Kyle, your week has kind of blown up. Why has your week been so busy?
Why has my week been so busy? What answer do you want out of me?
He's so busy.
The IMG answer.
Yeah,
Few cards.
I had a guess. That's where we're going. Yeah, so the rebranding, if you will, the relaunch of IMG happened on Monday, where I just do the test. Now we have 16 courses that you can access completely 100%. And that includes your new course on link building, on 40 different types of links that you can get and how you can kind of exponentially blow that up and get thousands upon thousands of links quite easily. And then my brand new course on white hat SEO is also included in that as well.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of good feedback on my link building course. Now, it's a low-level link building course, so someone like Clint is not going to get a lot from it. But if you're having trouble figuring out where to start and how to do it safely, then it's like a great course for you. And I have one section, I'll do a spoiler on it. I tell people that they can get links, any number of links, and they can completely control the context of them right out of GitHub. Like if you search for what's in GitHub, people have web pages about cooking recipes and all this information, and it all ranks in Google. And so that's like another really good one. Had one of the IMG people contact me saying they're putting their source code in GitHub, but it's not a link, it's showing up as content. And the trick is there's actually 3 types of links you can get in GitHub. One is just the citation that would appear in source that you commit to GitHub. But then there's the readme.md files that are at the bottom of your repository. And those you can put HTML into, and that gets you the HTML clickable links that'll get crawled right there in the repository pages that are ranking. And then finally, GitHub lets you have wikis, so you can put all the links you want in the wikis. Now, I find that the readme.md links at the bottom of the code repository pages are the best. That's like getting a homepage link that's direct in the content. But you got 3 kinds of links you can get just from the GitHub source. And, those source repository links, that's just one type of backlink I talk about in the course. We go over 40 types, thousands of sources, how to get them in minutes.
And Ted, the other thing I like about it too is that even though there were a lot of concepts that weren't overly new to me, I liked hearing your perspective on it and kind of your thought process on how it works, because it opens up ideas for me, like, oh, okay, I see what he's talking about here, and I see how he's explaining that, or, your thought process. It actually opens up other avenues, so that 40 turns into a lot more because I know things that I have access to, or things that I'm familiar with, and I can kind of take those concepts and build on them.
Yeah. And it's not about being the authoritative list. It's about understanding how to research for the types of links you want, how to find the opportunities. So hopefully you can walk away and find sources I never even mentioned.
Yep, exactly. Overall, it's been good. It's been a good week overall.
Yeah, it's been exciting. So definitely check that out. There's a bunch of courses in there. Mine's all the way at the bottom. It's not even the top course on the list. So definitely check it out. There's some good stuff there.
I think that was sequential. Just yours went in first.
No, I actually positioned mine at the bottom.
Did you? Okay.
I wanted everybody else to have, the best opportunity.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I put mine down there at the bottom. So let's get to our topic, which is talking about how to get answers out of Google. And I had somebody in the free IMG community ask, should I be doing the keyword golden ratio, which has to do with the number of times a keyword appears in the top 50 results in the title text versus the number of documents for it. And, and while it's an interesting number, it's kind of a quick and dirty keyword difficulty calculation. Would you guys agree with that for the keyword golden ratio? It's like
That's
these
exactly
are
what-
kind
That's
because it
exactly what it's for. It's so that you can, like a newbie could, or anyone new to that market can just find something and just start getting some rankings, and they find the easiest opportunity. So it's exactly that, a keyword difficulty number.
yeah, so it's a quick and dirty keyword difficulty number, and if you find one with a good reading, it generally means that you can create a page, and if you half-ass it, you can get top 50 half the time, something like that. But I see SEOs, and what this SEO was doing was saying I should find a golden a keyword golden ratio keyword, and then I should build a page for it, then I should launch it, then I should watch it, then I should see how it does, and then I should try to tune it better, and if it works out, then I should invest more in it, and if it doesn't, then I should go find another keyword. And I'm listening to that and I'm going, well, that sounds horrible. That sounds like a ton of trial and error. It's great to learn or maybe to get started, but as a workflow goes, that sounds like spending a year to find a couple small victories. And so I wanted to give them an answer that was a better answer than that. How could we get all the answers and get Google to tell us all the answers and move on from there? So one of the tricks I like to do is I like to create a bunch of bullshit pages for all of the keywords I want to fact find about. And I'm not trying to win or get to page one with them. I just want a relative indicator as to which ones are the easiest on the list. And when you take away the need to be, top ranking, and you just want to find out which ones are easy versus which ones aren't, it changes the problem. Then all of a sudden, you just have to get pages indexed for these into the primary index. And the ones that get indexed easily, those are the easy opportunities. And if you put on something like Google Analytics, then you can look at the traffic. You can see which ones got traffic and which ones ranked easy. So best, entry level traffic, best entry level ranking. Now you have some data. And if you can do that all at once, then all of a sudden you have Google, instead of researching each keyword, you have Google saying, these 25 were instant hits and the rest weren't. So, okay, I'll work on the instant hits. So let me share my screen. So this might be a little bit hard to read, but this is out of Google Analytics. And so I'm looking at one of my sites where I look at keywords, and this is in the SEO and marketing space. And so in Google Analytics, it's telling me that these pages from these sites got these sessions. And so I can see that, most of the traffic came to the home page, but then all these keywords that I'm testing, they all got traffic and sessions. And so I know that these are keywords that I can generally rank for easily. And I didn't have to test each one individually. I know that if I target internet advertising company, I wouldn't have thought of that on my own. But the keyword tools gave me 5,000 keywords, so I was going to check them all. Internet advertising company is an easy one, and it got a bunch of traffic. Google gave me the answers. So all I had to do was figure out a clever way to create some randomly generated content or curate some keyword specific content, just get them indexed and let Google tell me where the opportunities are. Like this other keyword, outsource search engine optimization, I would have never thought of it. But letting Google tell me the answers, there's some decent traffic there. Search engine optimization placement, another decent one. Who would have known? Here's a short tail one I would have never thought about being easy, but turns out a total garbage website can rank for this and get some traffic by SEO. I mean, Clint, you've been doing SEO tuning for SEO keywords for a long time. Have you ever targeted by SEO?
No, it's obvious. But I already took a screenshot. I'll have 3 or 4 pages from this list up by tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you will dominate this easily, because I used randomly generated content to get these rankings. So I'd imagine if you actually tried on keywords like this, you could take them over. And so when you guys try to figure out what to target, what are your various methodologies for trying to trick Google to give you answers about things? Not necessarily just keyword research. Maybe it's testing. Maybe it's trying to figure out the best content to use. How do you get Google to tell you the answers?
I use PPC. Use PPC. So Derek Booth taught Kyle and the rest of the SIA members a really good method a couple of years ago now, right, Kyle? On how to use PPC for fishing for keywords and finding those opportunities and stuff. So I'm still kind of in love with that method. The mass sites thing, what essentially what you're doing there is, or like the YouTube live keyword fishing and all that stuff, that that had its place, and I used that for a while, but at the end of the day it just turned into a junk fest, and Google corrected for it, right? So and then the mass site stuff with the indexing being shut off the way it is, it's just that's just as long term as putting up a page and then optimizing it and then see what happens at this point. So PPC is the fastest, in my opinion.
So how does the PPC method work?
The short version is you pick a broad match term. So we'll just go, for example, say Phoenix. Well, I'll do another one that I really like, ductless heat pumps. And if you don't know what they are, you got the condenser on the outside and then the blowers on the inside hooked to your wall, and you don't need a duct, and you can just do your whole room. It's cheaper. Anyway, when you're looking at the search volume in a tool anywhere, Douglas heat pumps, the search volume is 14,000 searches a month, which is exciting. Local business wants to rank for that, right? But they only service a certain area. So in this case, we'll just keep it at Seattle. And when you use PPC and use Douglas heat pump and leave that on broad and set your targeting for Seattle, what Google will give you back is a bunch of long tail or variations or related terms that it also showed your ad for. And using that targeting and stuff, what we learned is that Douglas heat pumps, nobody in Seattle, Washington searches for it. And they're all using ductless heating and cooling units. So, and the search volume tools say there's like 10 for that, but the impressions for the ad were in the thousands. So that's how we learned. That was like a really hard lesson for me in learning that the search volumes is not true at all, right? And that the impression numbers is really what you need to look for.
Very cool. Kyle, do you have any tricks for getting Google to tell you the answer?
Well, you're doing a form of poking there with the pages that you're generating. Another form of poking that I know that Lee and Caroline are both familiar with is video poking, where you can run a video up through YouTube, and if it hits in the top 3 pages instantaneously, then you've got a soft SERP. And you don't even have to have a real video. You can just set it to start in the future. And then just let it go. And then actually, you don't put anything up. You just optimize the description, set it. It goes, but nothing started because you didn't start the live broadcast. And then you can see what pings.
That's a golden nugget. How fast does that work? Because YouTube indexes very quick. Minutes. So you can test a keyword almost instantly.
Probably within 15, 20 minutes.
All right. That's a golden nugget. If your head didn't just explode on that, that is awesome. What about you, Lee? You have any ways of tricking the answer out of Google?
Well, there's a couple. Clint got me on something that I could go off on a rant about, which is how badly Google lies with the keyword data. Because I look at a number of different sources and things like that. But there are a couple of little tricks that I use to find a soft SERP. One is if you run like a core report, for example, and you look at the SERP and you look at number of referring domains, and you have a number of 4 or 5 of them on page 1 that have 10 or less referring domains, usually that's really easy to rank for. And sometimes you can find that with even high competition, keywords and stuff like that. So if they're not using a lot of backlinks and they're getting on page 1, either they're doing some weird stuff with PBNs, or more often than not, they're just weak. So you can get on there pretty quickly. Another one that I like to do that's a little tricky is if you're looking at like heat pumps Seattle or something like that. If you look at heat pumps across, let's say, the top 100 cities in the US, and you get the populations for them, usually, unless you have geographic differences, the keyword volume should be proportional to the population. And so a lot of times when you're looking at stuff, you'll see, plumber Los Angeles has 5,000 searches a month, plumber New York City, 5,000 searches a month, plumber Houston, 200 searches a month. That's a lie. And so, you can find things for that and sort of correct for it a little bit, in the data to see where there are opportunities that maybe Google's trying to steer you away from.
Yeah. And in many respects, what we do in our SEO communities, the SEO testing, I mean, that's all just trying to get the answer out of Google too. We set up a situation in such a way that we try to test if some factor or some, certain circumstance that we can fabricate has positive or negative effects in Google. And so oftentimes the answers we try to figure out are things like, will it index or will it boost? And so we'll be testing various things to see if we put a keyword here, will Google let your page be found for it later when we search? Or, if we do this type of behavior, will it give us a ranking advantage? And so in a way, just about everything we do is trying to trick Google to give us the answer. What do you think about those methodologies? Because obviously some things are faster than others at giving you answers. Some things are better than others at giving you answers. How would you kind of describe, the field?
Well, I think that, you've got, from a testing standpoint, you got 2 types of testing. You've got testing in sort of the lab. You create a lorem ipsum or random alpha type page, and you've got this very clinical environment and say, yes, it seems to have, moved rankings or, done something like that. But then a lot of times when you take that out into the field and you apply it to real sites and stuff like that, you can get a different answer. You can find that, wow, it's a lot more powerful than would indicate, or, it doesn't work very well, or works in limited sort of situations. So I think you have to balance both. And the sort of the cutoff comes down to, what kind of error can you live with relative to the, the cost or the time that you have to invest in figuring those things out, And a lot of that sometimes comes down to judgment. There are areas, SEO's got so many different areas. There are areas, for example, if I'm looking at how quickly can schema do X, Y, or Z, it's not my area of expertise. So I might reach out to somebody like Clint, who's an expert on schema, and say, hey, how quickly these days are you noticing these effects taking place, and how strong are the effects? And he can guide me, you know, because we're friends and stuff like that. But he would know immediately on something like that. So if he's testing around with different ideas on schema, he can pretty quickly probably get a feel for something like that. So it depends a little bit on your area of expertise and the amount of experience you have with whatever it is that you're looking at as well.
Yeah, I find often that when I try to test if something will index, say like a keyword in an image, will Google OCR the image and allow it to rank. Those will it index types of tests tend to be very quick, because you can put up a page, and if it happens at all, you've got your answer. You don't need to run the test 20 times in parallel to know that it's possible. If it happens once, you know it's possible. Now, the will it boost type of tests, yeah, they're just so tricky to figure out, well, is this a random outcome? Did I actually get an answer, or did I just get a lucky roll of the dice? Is this the common answer, or is this a rare answer? And so you have to test and retest and test in parallel and have a decent amount of sample size. So the will it boost testing is really difficult. But I think things like what I showed earlier, where you put up a bunch of pages for different keywords and let Google tell you which ones are easy to rank or which ones get early traffic the best. You know, that's kind of like the will it index test. It's like a really quick answer. If it happens at all, you know. What do you think, Clint? Are there different techniques that are easy and different that are difficult, or different that are reliable versus not as reliable?
I think mainly in on page, right? The link building, they've kind of made that so you actually have to work for it. But in on page, there are what we're called essentially the basics that you know that you can do and get a benefit out of pretty quickly. Once we use the tools like Pop, Surfer, Quora, and you actually start getting a fundamentals thing in your head because you're doing it so much and you're following the recommendations so much. Eventually, you just learn to anticipate what they're going to tell you, right? So, I think experience is what really carries that over. It's a little bit harder for me. Like Kyle and I and you, we can say these are the basics, ta-da, and people are supposed to trust us, but they still won't, and they'll still use Pop, Surfer, Quora until eventually the basics for them and for their market become a norm that they just do, which is experience, right? So experience and just doing.
Yeah, you bring up a great point there. SEO tools in general, mine and the others, they all are very good at telling people how much, but they're all really crappy at telling you how best to do it. And so that's why these tools to date could never replace an SEO. You need the SEO to come in and interpret it. So, for example, one of these tools might tell you to put, 23 keywords and LI tags, but that could mean that you need to put an HTML list in your blog article. It might mean that you need to add more keywords to your primary menu navigation that might also be in list tags. It might mean that your category page simply needs to have more products per page to paginate through. So you still need an SEO to look at the recommended measurements and to figure out how best to do it. So with that, I'm kind of out of content for today, so we can check for questions if anybody in YouTube has a question, or if there are any topics anyone here wants to cover. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap it up.
There's no questions yet, but the views are still going up. So if you're on YouTube, drop some questions. I got it open.
Yeah, this is your chance to ask all of these panelists about something you're fighting with right now. It's a great opportunity.
Sometimes, Ted, one of the simplest ones that we kind of overlook sometimes is just a simple Google search. Like there have been times when there have been claims, for example, that, keyword order doesn't matter, or keyword synonyms, it doesn't matter. So plumber Seattle and Seattle plumber, Google's so smart, they know. Well, if you just go Google plumber Seattle and Seattle plumber, and you see that, the SERPs are completely different, there's some similarity, but they're not the same. It's a fast little check to see whether that's a valid thing or not, even though if it's coming from a Google pronouncement. A lot of those sort of things, you can just do a quick check and see if it's true.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Like, I've had people many times over the years tell me that they've discovered the over-optimization penalty. And so I'm always interested by this because I have tried for years to test this and to show that it is there. And so I ask them, what's the limit? What can I do to penalize a page? And they'll say, well, if you put this many on the page, Google's going to knock you out. If you put this much on the page, Google's going to knock you out. And so I would do exactly what you said. I'd do Google searches and I'd check pages that are ranking on page 1 for prominent keywords. And I'd see, can I find something that violates the rule? And every time somebody has defined an over-optimization limit for me, I have always found a ranking page that violates it. And so it's one of those things where, yeah, you can just use a simple search in many cases to vet something. And if you're a believer in over-optimization, I strongly recommend that you define it like a scientist, and then test it. And if it still holds up, I want to know about it. Let me know. Have you ever tested over-optimization, Clint?
Not beyond what you've done and duplicating your tests and stuff and verifying that. I've never like intentionally gone and said, let's see how crazy I can get. You know what I mean? Like in the real world, because what our tests, with the one that you did and the one that I replicated, we had 90%, and it was number 1. Yep. And it was beating all the other stuff. I've never done, let me try to rank for a real word and put 90% keyword density. See what happens.
Well, I think where people get confused by over-optimization is there's a lot of stories out there where people prune away content from a page and their ranking improves. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. So don't get confused about it. What I think is happening there is it's not over-optimization. You're actually playing with different factors and you don't realize it. Because when you prune away that content, what you're really doing is you're modifying word count. And changing word count changes the keyword density of the page. And what Clint just talked about was tests showing that keyword density is a strong factor. And so if you cut away content that's only, words but not keyword matches, then you're increasing your keyword density. But if you cut away content that has a lot of your keyword matches, then you might be decreasing keyword density. So if you're just pruning content blindly, you are randomly increasing or decreasing your keyword density, which is probably why I have just about an even split of people who come to me saying that I pruned content on my pages or I detuned my pages for over-optimization and it got better. And I did the exact same thing and it got worse. I hear both in about equal proportion. So what I've learned from my customers is that trying to address over-optimization is a 50-50 gamble. And so it probably shouldn't be the first thing you try. I would recommend that would be the last thing you try. Let's see. Looks like we have some questions here. Ted, could you go over your technique one more time? Yeah, in a nutshell, You just create some, basically tuned random pages. It could be random in terms of random uh, text, alphanumeric pages that are just tuned in a basic sense for the keyword, or you could curate content like RSS posts that mention keywords and make big pages. Just do something to make a reasonably tuned page for the keywords. And then you do that for all your keywords and you publish it all at once. And then you wait and let Google tell you which ones had, easy rankings, which ones had decent entry level traffic for entering into search. And then you know that those are the opportunities instead of doing trial and error, one, page at a time with the keyword golden ratio, which seems like a slow, painful gauntlet to me. I'd rather have Google just take the whole list, tell me which ones are easy. Next question. Hey guys, with the NLP updates, Bert, should anchor text still be exact match, partial match, or more of a NLP style description? I have thoughts on that, but I want to hear Clint's answer. What do you think, Clint?
Yes.
What do you think, Lee?
I love Clint's answer on this because I know Clint has done some testing in this area. He's done more than I have. So I know he's got some interesting findings there. So I would tend to just rely on whatever he said as gospel in this case.
Damn right.
Let's go back to Clint. What were you going to think?
The fact of the matter is first off, Google will tell you the anchor text ratio that you need for that keyword. So if you need to be analyzing the top 10 ranking pages of the website and figure out what the anchor text ratio is for exact match, partial match, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. One thing that I have done since NLP has become more of a thing, and I've implemented it into pretty much everything that I do now, and ever since Ted has been adding it to Quora, is using variations as my anchor text and using the entities that are outputted from the TextRaiser API as anchor text. I no longer do crap like click here, read more, all that other junk. I find out what entities are in my content and I use those entities in anchor text, which is more likely for it to be there. And it's a lot easier to do if you're in the relevancy band of backlinking, it's a lot easier to find relevancy in your backlinks when you're using entities for your anchor text. So I've been doing that for ages, internal and external, ever since I got on the NLP and entities kick and topics kick with Mark and my mastermind way before the tools ever even addressed NLP. So that shit works like gangbusters. And if you're not using it, you're a dummy.
Another question is, I think most beginners have the most trouble with adding all the terms, words, a number of them into the page without the visible page looking stupid or wrong. What's the best method? So with this question, it's gonna get a little dark. It's gonna get a little black hat. All right. But this is kind of how it all works. You have a page, sometimes it's a big online retailer who's selling, electronics. So they have a category called, HD, 4K TVs or whatnot. And then in that category, they have individual product pages, specific makes and models of 4K TVs. And then you get into that TV and that page, and it doesn't rank for much. But what you might find is that there are different keywords that could apply to the product that aren't targeted by the content on the page. It's probably an easier example would be computer peripherals, so like headsets. So you have, Xbox headsets as a category, headsets as a keyword, and then the keywords, the search terms that get traffic that aren't being targeted by the page would be things like the best headset for Minecraft, the best headset for Call of Duty. Those aren't on your product page, but the headset you're selling is perfect for that query. So how do you do it? Well, you could have a blog and make editorial content about the top 10 headsets for Minecraft or whatever. Or you could go black hat and you just hide a div on the page and you just put all your typos and closely related keywords in that hidden div. Don't go nuts. Don't put 40,000 of them. But if there's 25 to 50 terms that you're not addressing in your content, put them in a hidden div and leave a note. Leave a note to Sally, the content writer, that the next time she updates this page, she may want to try to work in some content about best headset for Call of Duty and the best headset for Minecraft. Leave a note for the editor in the source code in this hidden div. All right. Is it against the guidelines? Yeah, you probably shouldn't do it. But does it work? Yes, it does expand keyword reach. I recently tested this last week, and it worked for the product pages, worked for the category pages, worked for a lot of things. So how do you do it? Well, you just got to find those zones, those will it index zones of the page that aren't visible to the customer. And then you put all the typos, the common misspellings, into those hidden zones.
I'll throw out one little tip there. I mean, there are a lot of black hat ways of hiding content sort of underneath the page. But I believe one of my favorite questions that you always ask, Ted, is, if so-and-so can do it, why can't I? And I think it was this summer that you did an episode of Fight Club dissecting how Amazon does it. And if people go back and look at that particular episode, it serves as a great roadmap for how to hide a bunch of things exactly the way that Amazon does it.
Yeah, Amazon went a little black hat. But yeah, there's probably a lot of ways to do it. There are probably some right ways to do it. I suggested a wrong way to do it that just happens to work. It's wrong because Google doesn't like it. It's not wrong because it's illegal. It's wrong because it's against a guideline. But, at the end of the day, I don't think there's any crime with leaving notes for editing the page in the source code. I think that's a great place to put those notes. And if they help you rank and if they help you expand your keyword reach, then more power to it. And if Google says, well, why did you do this? You can just say, I was leaving a note for Sally. Didn't you read it in the source code? If they still don't like it, okay, I'll remove it. So what? But yeah, leave a note for Sally. All right. Somebody asks, I've been testing accordions, iframe through YouTube transcript script and putting around 2 to 3K work article inside spun. When I do a search in quotes, the page comes up, but with this message, it looks like there aren't many great matches for your search. Try using. All right. So that looks like it's failing the will it index test we were describing. I'm not exactly sure about how your test is constructed. But in general, I try to avoid special operators because indexing becomes a real crazy environment when you start using a lot of special operators. And what we're starting to think is that those special operators like site colon, NURL, and quoted search, they might actually be different indexes possibly even different databases than the primary index when you do a normal keyword search. And so, they're interesting from a diagnostic perspective, but you have to take them with a grain of salt. So I would look more at the fundamentals of your test framework and maybe test your method with something that will rank, and see if that test method with with an easy one, like a keyword and a title tag via this method, or just a ringer that the answer to, that you can verify that the method works, and then come back and look at this test. And we have to do that all the time in testing. We have to test our methods, prove they work, then we can look at a real test and say, is this an actual result? And so I think you're in that stage where you need to test the method first. What do you think, Lee?
I think you're spot on that. I didn't understand necessarily the structure of it, but sometimes it is good to go back to the fundamentals. And you can always construct a term that you can rank for, like purple striped nonstick unicorn socks. Shouldn't take much to rank for that page. And test your method with that. So I'm with you on this one.
Yeah. And, it's hard to give you the best answer for that, because we really don't know enough about your test to give you a really great answer. It's one of those things where if we can't see it and look through how it was done, it's hard to guide you.
Yeah, the part that I'm stuck on is I framed through a YouTube transcript script.
Yeah. It got complicated fast in that.
Yeah. But the other part is the message that he's getting. It just, to me, it just maybe the assuming you have it hidden in the iframe and it's hidden in the accordion, not hidden, but it's in the accordion, in the iframe, is just not good enough for Google for that particular keyword. And they're like, we're not bothering to put you in a ranking position for that keyword. Versus when you do the exact match of the HTs, it's like, yeah, here it is. So that brings the whole right back full circle to a couple episodes ago where Ted and I had it out about indexing versus ranking. And it sounds to me like you're indexed, but you're not ranked because it's not valuable enough for Google for those specific terms that you're checking in. But I would like to see what the heck you're talking about with iframe through YouTube transcript script. Never even heard of that. So.
And I think that's our last question. So any final announcements? Anything you need to announce, Clint? Got anything coming up?
Working, getting ready for the holidays. Hopefully you guys are all taking care of each other and your families.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, have a good holiday if I don't see you before that, but hopefully we should have a few more episodes before New Year's. So Lee, any final thoughts?
No, just, I've been on the naughty list for several years, so there really are no holidays for me because I do a little black hat stuff and Santa doesn't like it. So
yeah. You're expecting a few lumps of coal from Google?
Just one. I never get multiple.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and I look forward to next week's episode. I hope you had fun with this one. Take care.